Right, ladies and gents, are we up for the first act of the show? Yeah! Okay, Aaron, you're going to start the applause. It's going to sweep round to Amber on that side. Aaron, off you go, my friend. Right, let it spread right away to Jonathan, to Ali, right away to Amber on the end. Hoot and holler, stop your feet, let's welcome Andy Parkman!
Hello. Strong start. Just going to move this out of the way. So, how is everyone today? Good? No, right, okay, some jokes. Let's do this. I actually found it quite difficult to get out of work today. I've got to remember to do this. That's very important. Because I've got one of those sort of London kind of high pressure, high stress jobs, you know, the ones. And in a job like that, you get quite a lot of job envy for the cleaners, on the most part. I don't know what it is. I just think that I'd be better off in that way sometimes. It just seems like a sort of simpler way of life. You know, you don't get like a group of cleaners stood around a dirty sink trying to brainstorm a way out of it. Come on, people, we need ideas here, concepts. Come on. We could dim the lights so they can't see the dirt as much. No, that's not going to work. We could try and get them to wash their hands in the toilet. No, that's not going to work either. We could give it a wipe. Yeah, why don't we just give it a wipe? Let's just do that. They like that. Even though they've heard it 19 times. But, you know, I sometimes think that, cleaners must get stressed out too. You know, I can imagine a cleaner lying in bed at night, can't sleep. His wife turns to him and says, "What is it, honey?" You know, and she's like, "Oh, you know, it's just work. I can't figure out what I'm going to do about that soap stain on the sink." "It'll be all right. Can't you just, give it a wipe?" "I'll just give it a wipe. You're right. Thanks, honey." So I work in advertising. You're welcome. Hence what I'm doing now. And my job is to come up with ideas. But sometimes, try as you might, you just can't come up with anything good. But you have to go and present something anyway. I sometimes wonder if this ever happened to God. You know, it's like late on the 6th day of creation, day off tomorrow, and he's got to present his latest animal concepts. He's got nothing, and he knows it. But anyway, he's got to go and present, and he comes up with what he calls the slug. "Ooh," says the room. "I like its moistness. Slow animals. Why didn't we think of that before? The trail, the slimy trail. Never going to get sick of seeing those." And well done, God, they say. And God goes, "Dodged a bullet there." Leaves the room. And when he goes, everyone says, "Wasn't that just a snail with the shell taken off?" And then God goes, "Silence! I am omnipresent, you know." So, what about the people of North Korea? You know? It's a seamless stream, these jokes, just a babbling brook of bullshit. So, the people of North Korea, they live in a society where the laws make no sense. There's no free will, and failure to comply leads to severe persecution. A bit like it is in this country when it comes to spelling. You know, it's kind of like that. My attempts to spell are like a 10-second synopsis from 1984. Optimism leads to bafflement. Thanks for that. Leads to bafflement, then anger, then defeat. Then I love Big Brother. Or spell check, as it's more widely known. And what if it gets worse? You know, they're going to start imposing on-the-spot penalties for not being able to spell. You know, I'll be in a coffee shop. "I'll have a cappuccino, please." "Excuse me, can you spell that, please, sir?" "I'll have a tea." "Can you spell that?" My father is a very passionate man. Sorry, he sat somewhere, so be careful. He's a very passionate man. Always got a lot to say. Sometimes he'll talk to me for hours, you know, about antivirus software, which is very exciting for me. But I think there must have been a time when, you know, he wasn't so interested in boring things. And I sometimes wonder at what point it changed. You know, was it instantaneous, or did it happen mid-sentence? Was he down the pub talking to his mates? So this girl comes out the bathroom, right, wearing only a towel, and then it's gone, and she's completely naked, and she walks towards me, and I remember that I only paid £1.09 for a litre of fuel at my local garage last week, and now it's £1.11. But the thing is, if you drive 10 miles down the road, you can get it for £1.07 anyway, so I really don't know why they bother. Sometimes the most difficult time to have one of these conversations is on the telephone, because there's no chance of escape. And sometimes when I'm in that situation, I find myself sort of pulling facial expressions. Do you ever do that? So, it's like, kind of like I think that God will see me and think, God, we really need to do something about this dad model. Something is clearly not right here. Maybe we could turn it into a slug. That'd be good, wouldn't it, Dad? Hey. So I actually quite like my flat. Yeah. As I said, we've covered this, right? I quite like my flat. It's not just a load of bullshit things glued together for the sake of an act or a performance. So I quite like my flat because the rent is quite reasonable, and it's right next to the common, which is good. And sometimes, late at night, you can hear moaning coming from the room next door. Oh, that's my suicidal neighbour. I actually quite like my suicide. Sorry, I keep remembering I can say suicidal neighbour loud now because I've been practicing in my flat for the last 2 weeks and I've had to keep it down. So I quite like my suicidal neighbour. He might be, yeah. It's not you, is it? If it is, I'll have to come up with something off the spot. So yeah, I quite like my suicidal neighbour in a way because he sort of makes me feel better about my own life. And I kind of think that in a way it's such a good feature that the estate agent should have told me about it when I viewed the flat. Kitchen, bathroom, and you got a DPN. That's great. Oh, what's a DPN? It's a depressed person next door. You're lucky to find one in Clapham. Usually only get them in poorer areas. Ooh. Cleaners, now this. What's wrong with this guy? So the way I found out I had a DPN was that I was asleep one night and heard this loud banging coming from the corridor outside. And I poked my head out and I saw 2 policemen stood there and I said, hello, hello, hello. No, I didn't say that. I said, everything all right, officers? And they said, yeah, your neighbour, he's just tried to commit suicide using helium. I was like, oh God, okay, well, good luck. And I went back in and I was like, helium? That's a bit weird. And I looked it up and it's a real thing. Like sometimes people try and commit suicide with helium. And so I can only imagine the conversation must have gone a bit like this. Everything all right in there, sir? Leave me alone. If you don't open the door, we're going to have to break it down. Go away. I don't want to live anymore. Can't you just leave me alone? Now, I tried to think of a funny way to finish that story, but I just couldn't think of a good way to end it. A bit like my next door neighbour. Thank you very much. Thank you.